Hi everybody, it's Bar here again with Crumble, who's a very tired girl. She's going to be on my lap for this video. Um, and just to say, sorry, I haven't been doing a lot of videos because I've been busy working. And now I've stopped nursing. I've stopped since January, and I am transitioning from nutrition with Burr to Nutribell with Burr because I am back with my favorite tools for exercise, the kettlebells. And I'm doing kettlebell classes online now for anybody who wants to join in. I'm very lucky. I have my some of my Canadian, a few of my Canadian people that I worked with in Canada who'd already asked me to do kettlebells are now back doing them with me. So we've been going for about 3 weeks. So if you need any information, there will be links at the end of this video. Let's see if she stays quiet. I might have to put her down and let her go because she seems to be wanting to go off to her basket or be on her own. So for part of the May challenge, because the whole idea with Nutribell with Burr is to actually do the weight training as well as the nutrition side of things, and to put challenges in every so often. So it gets us to think about what we're eating and how we can actually clean up our diet. So the first challenge I thought which would be really appropriate would be ultra processed food removal challenge. So we do it over a month. So that is my first challenge. And we're looking at why we would want to reduce the ultra processed foods, because we want to reduce the risk of cardiometabolic disease, example, heart disease and diabetes. There's a higher incidence of mental health disorders like depression and anxiety, elevated risk of early mortality from all causes. Canadians consume about 50% of the diet from ultra-processed foods. That's research from the Heart and Stroke Foundation. In Canada and Spain, there has been a solid increase from 24% to in 1939 to 55% in 2001. UK 57% and USA 58% of the diet comes from ultra processed food in adults, and in children 67% of the diet is from ultra processed foods. And that is a really sad statistic. Shh. That's a really sad statistic. Saying, that that's how much ultra processed foods we consume in our diet. Over 50% of our diet is ultra processed foods. And we start our day with something like the toast that's down here, and we can see how that adds up very quickly. So I'm moving on to what ultra-processed foods are. It's an industrial formulation, so man-made industrial formulation from substances such as oils, fake oils, which are sugars, starches, protein isolates, additives, flavorings, emulsifiers, preservatives, colorings, and all the E numbers which are attached to those. They're engineered for convenience, a longer shelf life, and they can be transported around the world, and high palatability. When we eat these foods, we have an increase in energy intake, so meaning we eat more calories, and they've seen that when they've done research, and they put a cohort on a whole foods diet compared to an ultra-processed food diet, and the ultra-processed food diet, they ate 500 calories more, even though they actually set it up so that the macronutrients, the fat, the proteins, and all that would be similar between both, but they could eat as much as they want. And the ultra-processed food group ate 500 calories more per day, which that would give you 3,500 calories more per week, which would cause a gain of weight of 1 pound of body fat, and as well as all the water weight gain. So if you took that 500 calories off, obviously you could lose a pound of body fat a week, which adds up over weeks and months and the year. So we're getting a lot more of those unhealthy fats from the refined seed oils. There's a lot of the sugars, which is higher in sugar, and it's not necessarily what we know as sugar, but it's the fake sugars like the high fructose corn syrup, the processed sugars, the sweeteners like aspartame, saccharin, all of those. So it increases our our fat mass, so obviously our obesity, inflammation, and metabolic disease and cancer. So by eating these foods, we reduce our fiber intake, and we know that fiber plays a really important role for the gut microbiome, in promoting good gut bacteria, and also for the actual transition of our stool through the large intestine. And it also helps to lower cholesterol and remove toxins from the body. Protein, we tend to have a lower intake of protein when we eat these foods, and the quality of the protein tends to be poorer quality. We have lower intake of potassium, which is really important at cell level for function and energy. We have a lower intake of vegetable and fruits, and that has a knock-on effect because we have a lower intake of antioxidants, which help prevent and fight the aging process and inflammation and disease. They're antioxidants to the stress that the oxidative stress that's caused by these ultra processed foods. So we have a lower intake of overall healthy foods, but the benefits from these healthy foods we're not getting. So lower minerals, lower vitamins, lower antioxidant status in the body overall. The classification, this is, you can see, I can share the links to any of these papers. It's all from research papers. Classification goes from class 1 to class 4, so there's 4 classifications, unprocessed to ultra-processed. And we all, I think, understand what the ultra-processed means. It doesn't mean a 10 of canned sardines in water, or a 10 of canned beans or lentils in water and a salt. We're looking at things like baked beans with sausages in. Those are ultra processed. We're looking at the sardines that are in sunflower oil. That would be a bad choice to make. We're looking at packets, the shiny packages on the aisles of cereals, biscuits, bars, the pizzas, the microwave meals, the frozen meals, all those fast foods, they're all ultra processed. Okay, so these are some of the common ingredients that you might find in ultra processed foods, and so for you to be able to actually see, are these in my cupboard? So additives like monosodium gluconate, sodium nitrate, potassium sorbate, benzenate, BHA, BHT, and calcium propionate are often seen in the list of foods, and you might not even know what they mean. So better alternatives would be to use rosemary extract, which is a natural preservative, vinegar, sea salt, fermented foods like kimchi, sauerkraut. They can give you that umami flavor, or miso or tamari, nutritional yeast, parmesan. All of those foods that are listed, herbs, spices, garlic, onions, all are better alternatives to any of these preservatives and additives that are found in the ultra processed foods. So at home, you can add any of these to get that extra umami flavor. Artificial sweeteners are huge now on all the shelves. They're in, the sparkling waters, the still waters, and they're in the low fat. Everything is low fat, low sugar, low calories, but high in disease and high in inflammation and high in addiction, because they create that hyperpalatability. They keep drawing us back to the shelf for the same foods, and then we have it in our head. We're convinced by the marketing that these are healthier options for us. So artificial sweeteners, aspartame, sucrose, saccharin, there is a lot of research on those. High fructose corn syrup, how they're linked to fatty liver. They are linked to cardiovascular disease, they're linked to cancer. They are 30 to 1,300 times, 1,000 times, 13,000 times sweeter than regular sugar. So we have demonized raw cane sugar, but that was something that existed way back in the 30s and the 20s. And people ate small amounts of it, or used it in baking at home, or put it in sauces to take the acidity out of the sauce. That was a very common practice. And now we frown upon raw cane sugar, but it's a much better alternative to any of these. Raw honey is full of minerals, and it's really good for the immune system. It's great for allergies. If you buy real honey, and it's local and it's organic and it's raw, it's really beneficial. Be careful with honey. Again, that's another big discussion, but some of it is fake. Maple syrup, dates or date syrup, coconut sugar are all better alternatives. And I will do a follow-up slides show on sweeteners, because that's it can take a deep dive into that, because there's a lot to be said about it. Then another category of ingredients that is found in ultra-processed foods is emulsifiers, thickeners, and stabilizers, gums, carrageenan, sialectins, modified food starches, lecithins, and the list goes on. They have a negative effect on the gut bacteria, causing inflammatory type diseases, weaken the intestinal barrier, create more of the harmful type bacteria. It's like the weeds. I always talk about the weeds in the garden. Right now, my garden is, the flowers are trying to get through, but there's lots of nettles with seeds or flowers on the nettles, and the nettles are overtaken, and I can hardly see the flowers. So I need to pull out the weeds. And that's what, if you think of the ultra processed foods, pull out the ultra processed foods so that the bacteria in your gut can flourish, the good bacteria, and there's less of the bad bacteria, which produces endotoxin, causing dysbiosis, which is like bloating, gas, feeling unwell. With the knock-on effect of that is chronic fatigue, brain fog, joint pains, and the list can go on endlessly, causing autoimmune diseases. And obviously we know that all of these ultra-processed foods are linked to hypertension, diabetes, cardiovascular disease. Then oils. This is a huge subject, and I am going to do a video series on this, which, talking about the polyunsaturated fats versus the saturated fats, and it's heavily debated in the health world. But today we're just going to talk about them in relation to ultra-processed foods. They are found in pretty much all the ultra-processed foods. It's usually rapeseed oil or canola oil are the culprits. Vegetable oils are highly oxidized by the time they get to the shelf, and they're in these plastic bottles, which further oxidizes them. But the cleaning process and the processing of them is a long process to get them to the shelf to be able to be utilized for cooking. So better options would be your saturated fats, such as your butter, your ghee, your tallow, the fat from the bacon that's left over, or fat dripping that comes from meat. And then you have your extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil. Those are all much better options, and those are where I would recommend you get your fat sources from. The problem with all of these oils over here, the seed oils, is they're pro-inflammatory, and they're very high in omega-6s, which is linked to chronic disease. It's a very controversial topic, and a lot of the plant-based world, or in the vegan world, they believe that they do promote health. That's really highly debated, and there is research to support both, that they are causes of disease and they're cause of obesity. But then there are papers that suggest that they may be beneficial to lower LDL. But just a quick snippet on the LDL. I'm just going to say one thing is that if you go into hospital with any heart condition, they will rarely test your LDL. They'll just naturally put you on a statin. So it's hilarious how we think that LDL is so important, but they don't even test it if you go in with any heart condition or a heart attack. The standard American diet contains 14 to 25 times more omega-6s than omega-3s, mostly from linoleic acid. So linoleic acid is the omega-6. The thing to remember is that these omega-6s, they lead to a formation of oxalates, a compound that's linked to heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's. They have a half-life, so that means that they stay in your body for about 2 years in the cell, and it's really hard to actually get rid of them. Vitamin E, which would be found in extra virgin olive oil, could be helpful. Coconut oil would also be helpful, and saturated fats to displace them. But they do stay in your body for that many years, and they can slow down the functioning of the mitochondria and make it difficult for cell respiration. So what we need to do is we need to reduce these oils and to lower our risk of all-cause mortality. I've gone on a bit too much about that. So the domino effect of ultra-processed foods, it causes cardiovascular disease, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, very common. And it's now we're seeing it in younger and younger people. Non-alcohol fatty liver disease, obesity, food addictions, because the scientists have now, spent time in the labs to work out how much sugar, how much salt, how much of these artificial sweeteners do we need to put in to these fake foods to actually get people to want more and more of them, to keep going back down those aisles with all the glossy packages, to eat more and more of them. They're linked to autoimmune disease and many other things. Okay, so I think the point is we need to stop eating them, or at least reduce our consumption of them. So I just wanted to share 3 studies. There's lots more, but there's in the cohort study in France where there was adults of 45 years of age or older who had a 10% increase in ultra-processed foods. There was a significant association with a 14% higher risk of all-cause mortality. That's just with a 10% increase. In this other paper, looking at higher consumption of ultra-processed foods, greater than 4 servings daily was independently associated with a 62% relative increased hazard for all-cause mortality. And then looking at the 3 cohort study in the United States and the United Kingdom, the highest quartile of ultra-processed food consumption had the highest risk of all-cause mortality and cardiovascular disease mortality compared to the lowest quartile of ultra-processed food consumption. So we need to get it down to 4 or less servings a day. I'd ideally like to say at home you don't eat any ultra-processed foods. Maybe you would have something like dark chocolate, which technically is an ultra-processed food. I have a bar here. Because there's often soy lecithin in it, but that's the only ultra-processed food ingredient in it. So I would have a piece of this, maybe a couple of pieces of this twice a day. So I would be having, say, maybe 2 servings of ultra-processed foods a day. But I consider that very low because the soy lecithin amount would be quite low in a bar of chocolate. Whereas if I was eating something like this, which is highly ultra-processed food, and I had, say, 2 of those, that would put my ratio much higher because there are more than 1 ingredient. There's soy protein crisp, there's soy protein isolate, there is vegetable fats, there are rapeseed oil, soy flour oil, sugar, salts, rice syrup. So there are lots more ingredients. There's lots more ingredients than that. So that would put my risk much higher than the 1 ingredient, soy lecithin, in the chocolate. So you just have to kind of work it out yourself. So the goal is to reduce it, and you're not going to completely eliminate it. We all eat ultra-processed. We all eat processed foods in our diet because we have tins of beans or fish or whatever at home, but it is to what level they're are processed to make them ultra processed. So your first challenge is to clean out your pantry or clean out your cupboard. If you are the only person in the house doing this, I've put in a tip here to make a green shelf for yourself, or have a little basket where, I have my basket where I have my chocolate, and I have, say, dates in it, and I have, that would be it, maybe raisins as well. And then my husband would have his basket, which maybe contains something like dark chocolate also. And he would have maybe something like oat cookies, which have rapeseed oil in, which I would not eat. So you can make your own baskets with what's clean, if everybody in the house doesn't want to do it. And obviously it's harder with kids. So take everything out of your pantry, look at the ingredients, and if you see any of those ingredients like the high fructose corn syrup, the rapeseed, canola oils, get rid of those, or donate them, or give them to a friend. Remove the highly refined chips, cookies, instant noodles, all of those kind of things. So you're going to declutter and remove everything that is ultra processed, and you're going to then restock them with dry and fresh herbs, lemons, limes, and oranges are really good for adding flavor, and the zest of all of those are really good for adding flavor to foods. You're going to replace your sunflower oil and your canola and rapeseed oil with extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, butter, ghee. So you're just going to transition. This is not going to happen in a week. This is going to take time. And then you're going to have, little snack boxes for yourself ready. It's like, so if you're worried about you're going to eat the bar of chocolate or the biscuit, you'll have a little small pot of raw nuts with some dark chocolate, 70 to 90%, which then that kind of stops you going into the store and buying any of that rubbish. So we're going to start with the breakfast. Swaps. This is actually a very easy one to do. So instead of having your Kellogg's cornflakes or your Cheerios or your Frosties, you're going to maybe do something like an overnight oats, where you soak the oats overnight and then you soak the oats overnight and then you maybe grate an apple into it, add some blueberries, and then in the morning add a dollop of yogurt and cinnamon and ginger, chocolate, dark chocolate, and take it to work or eat it at home. Instead of having flavored yogurt, you could have a plain yogurt. I have put the fat 0%. It doesn't have to be 0%. It can be 5%, 10% fat. And then add some fresh berries and honey to it. That's delicious. Or a bit of dark chocolate, nuts, seeds, whatever you like. Then down here, instead of these bars, the nuts and the chocolate are a good alternative. This is my favorite high protein breakfast. I have 1 cup of cottage cheese, which I choose low fat, and 1 heaped tablespoon of the 0 fat Greek yogurt. I tend to get my fats from animal sources, other animal sources, not the dairy sources, but I tend to get them from the fatty meats, like gelatinous cuts of meat. And I also will get them from chocolate. I always have plenty of chocolate in my diet. And I also would get my fat from extra virgin olive oil. Those are my main sources. And then I stew a medium large apple. And once that's stewed in a tiny bit of water, I add half a cup of frozen berries and I cook that at the end. Then I add in 2 squares of dark chocolate, which melts. And then you can add ground ginger, cinnamon, cardamom, pinch of Himalayan sea salt if you want. And then you're creating this delicious breakfast, which is giving you about 33 grams of protein, and it's very easy, very simple, but it keeps you full and happy until lunch. Really, you're really aiming for 20 to 40 grams of protein per meal. Well, I'll do another video on how much protein. I will do a video on macros and how much protein we'll need for building muscle. But as we get older, and I'm shoving now towards the 60 mark, I've got a couple of more years before that, but we need more protein to preserve our muscle mass, and we need to work out using weights to maintain our muscle and to build more muscle. The reason I go with the 70% chocolate is because I get GERD from the higher percentages that cause palpitations, restless legs, and a disturbed sleep. I generally feel way better. I also get a very stuffy nose if I go higher in the percentage of chocolate. So the 70% suits me, and I don't get the cravings if I eat it with something like this. So I'm not eating it alone. I tend to eat less of it. Okay, so bread is a really is something that's eaten a lot for breakfast. So if you're going for bread, really go for a sourdough or fermented sourdough, which you'd find in the higher end bakeries. Bread should be made with just whole wheat flour, water, and salt, and left to ferment to the air, where you get the bacteria from there, which will ferment and then create that sourdough. The longer it's left to ferment, obviously, and they use sourdough starters as well. The longer it's left to ferment, then the lower the gluten content is, and the better it is for you, as it's easier to digest. Avoid breads. Even some of the sourdoughs will have added vitamins into them, like B12, and iron is often added in. I'm not a massive fan of that because you don't know the quality of those vitamins, and they can give you artificially inflated levels of B12, and some people have excess iron, and they're not even aware that they're getting it in their bread. And excess iron, hemochromatosis, is a condition which can cause a lot of problems for people's health. So white sandwich bread, you swap it for 100% whole rye or sprouted grains. Brioche bagels, wraps, again, the sourdough is your best choice. And rather than having toast every morning, you could have eggs with you could have boiled eggs with some fruit, or eggs poached with some leftover veggies from the night before, like some roasted vegetables. You could have meat left over from the night before. Mince is great. You can add in some eggs, you can add in greens, whatever you want. You can have like something as simple as a Greek yogurt with a very ripe banana, some nuts and seeds, some dark chocolate, and off you go. So I would avoid these breads down here, which are really low calorie. They're really highly processed. And if you're trying to lose weight, I would limit bread to once a day max, or eat at the weekends only when you're going out with friends for brunch, and you can spend £14 or 20 or $15, whatever it is, on a posh avocado and poached egg toast. Focus on protein and fiber instead of the toast, and you'll get more protein and fiber if you eat eggs and veggies and fruit and yogurt, and your gut will thank you for it. So you'll be doing a good thing for your health. Another thing, that breakfast now is very trendy here in the UK is to go and get Uber delivery of Starbucks or Caffè Nero and have breakfast delivered. And sometimes the choice is these sweetened beverages with artificial syrups, making them, 30 to, we saw at least minimum 30 times sweeter than regular sugar, and a lot more sweeter even. And then they have other thickeners in to make them hyperpalatable. But you can still go to those places if you want to get a coffee, but choose espresso, Americano, a latte, a flat white, or cappuccino. And if you're required to add in sweetener do not add in the artificial like NutraSweet or Equal or Splenda, because those are actually available at all of these places, especially I think Splenda is quite popular. Add some whole sugar that is also available in the sachets, or try and go without if you can. Tea is another good option that you can choose, or water. Okay, Pepsi Cola, Diet Coke has taken over the world. I would rather, if you really wanted to have this, obviously I would say I'd prefer you not to have it, but if you really want to have it, have the full sugar version. Do not go with the diet version. It is far more detrimental for your health than the sugar version. You could better to replace this with sparkling water. You could add a twist of lemon, lime, orange, whatever into it to get some flavor. Raw coconut water is another good option. Orange juice or pineapple juice are, again, better options than having a Diet Coke, as long as there's nothing added that is coming from the whole fruit and nothing but the fruit, because they have minerals, they have vitamins in it, all providing antioxidants, and helps to support and balance your blood sugar if you're eating a healthy, balanced diet. So we've already talked about the gut disruption and the health concerns with all of these sweeteners previously. So if you manage to do this, I'll just move that over here. If you manage to do this within a days, 2 weeks, your energy and mood should stabilize and no sugar crashes. You should have better digestion, so you should have less gas, bloating, and your bowel motions should be more regular. You hopefully will see improved sleep quality and maybe reduce snoring and those kind of symptoms, reduce craving for sugars and salty snacks. And then within months, we should see a dramatic reduction in weight and loss of belly fat. And losing the belly fat is really key for reducing the risk of metabolic disease. Clearer skin, better focus and mental clarity so you don't get that brain fog, you know, always struggling to find your words, lower blood pressure, reducing your risk of cardiovascular disease and all-cause mortality, and better blood sugar control. So it's a good thing. It's a win-win. So we first start with the breakfast. We clean out our pantry, but then we focus on the breakfast for the first week, and then we'll go for lunch, and then we'll go for dinner, and then we'll do the sauces and condiments to the meals. So even if you're not a member or you're not joining my class for swinging, I hope you will consider to do that at some point. If you're ready to swing a bell, please get in touch with me. But you're more than welcome to, this keeps verifying, you're more than welcome to come and do this challenge. I'll be putting up videos each week for new recipe ideas and to talk a little bit more about each of the meals and how we can reduce those ultra processed foods. So you can contact me. It's probably best through my email, but this is a UK number. If you did want to WhatsApp me, you can send me a message and have a free 15-minute discovery call to see if I'm a good fit to train you using the bells, and also, or to see if you wanted to have a nutritional consultation with me. Good luck to everybody who's doing the challenge in my group, and to all of those who'd like to join. I hope this video has been informative and has encouraged you just to rethink a little bit about what's on your plate and what's in your cupboard, your pantry, and that you actually will gain some benefits from clearing out the pantry and, you know, having fresher ingredients. So I'll say goodbye for now, and I'll look forward to seeing you all very soon. Okay, bye.